Hey there, Nocturnes! Welcome back to English Me dito sa Nocturnal Sage, a guide for those left in the dark. Ako nga pala ulit si Kuya N, ang inyong class president. Noong nakaraang meeting with Sir Jeremy, diniscuss niya ang tungkol sa historical approach. Backwards tayo nun, bumalik tayo sa kasaysayan. Nakita natin na ang isang literary work or media text ay pwedeng makritik, pwedeng gawa ng reaction paper, base doon sa historical context kung saan nangyayari yung mga kwento. So, naging example ay yung A Tale of Two Cities na nakaset sa French Revolution, which really happened, and Assassin's Creed na nangyari sa golden age of piracy noong 18th century. So, ngayon naman, isa na namang approach yung ating pag-aaralan, but this time, it's less technical and it's the easiest na madidiscuss natin so far kasi nakafocus tayo ngayon sa isang less structured way of doing things. Ang tawag natin sa approach na ito ay Impressionistic approach. Impressionistic approach kasi base lang yan sa kung ano yung, di ba nga, may tinatawag tayong first impression, lasting impression. So ano ba yung pagkakaunawa mo sa impression? Yan yung pag-uusapan natin tonight at paano natin magagamit yung impressionistic approach sa pagkritik ng isang media or isang pabasahin na may laman pa rin kahit napakasimple yung impressionistic approach. So samahan nyo na ako sa ating susunod na klase para malaman natin kung paano nagana ang approach na ito. Oh, English me! Ng Ingles pero hindi alam kung paano.
Good evening, class. A rainy night to all. So for now, we're going to discuss another approach, and this time it goes by the name Impressionistic approach. So what is this approach all about? It's all about the experience of consuming a material. When we say consume, we talk about reading, listening to, and viewing, or a combination of everything that I've said. How is the impressionistic approach possible? Only if the work that you're dealing with is arbitrary, in the sense that readers, viewers, or listeners won't have the same interpretation. And if the interpretation is arbitrary, meaning to say that one can say that this interpretation is like this while another is like this, they may or may not necessarily cancel out each other. It's possible to have multiple interpretations and they're equally just as valid. It's fine. Okay, it's fine for that to happen because the essence of impressionistic approach is that it validates differences. It validates differences among interpretations. And this difference is made possible by the loss of coherent structure. Works without a clear structure in terms of plot, for instance. And this usually happens in flash fiction. Flash fiction, it's shorter than a short story. The short stories like A Rose for Emily, The Cask of Amontillado, those types of short stories that you read when you were in junior high. And it's because of that loss which makes interpretations open. This time, the writer, the author, has died on your behalf as the reader for you to have the opportunity to decide how or why, let's say, why this happens at the end of the story. Okay, that's the magic of Impressionism. So there's the loss of coherent structure. Let's apply this by analyzing the last scene, the very last one, in the fourth season of 13 Reasons Why. After everything that the characters have endured, they finally graduate and fulfill their respective dreams. And in the last scene, we find Tony and Clay leaving for college. They say goodbye to their loved ones. The very last frames are devoted to them riding a car, Tony's red car. We see them opening the windows of the car and they look as if they're like it's an ordinary time. Well, now here's where the impressionistic approach comes in. I don't know how you'll interpret the image of two guys in a red car not looking at each other, windows open, and they are seen, they're just there, as in they're just there, sensing the movement of the red car, not looking at each other. Okay, they're not, or maybe there are moments when they tried to look at each other, but totally they're self-absorbed. That's how they appear. Now I wanted to play it here, but I don't want to be blocked due to copyright claims. That's why if you want to check out that particular scene, just refer to the link in the description below. Now back to the scene. How can you interpret that? So there will be arbitrary interpretations. The first possible interpretation here is that they may not be sure that they have moved on from the crisis on Hannah Baker's suicide and the deaths of Justin Foley, Bryce Walker, and Monty De La Cruz. So there's this fear that the past will haunt them again. And then the second one, the second possible interpretation is they've learned to live with the pain. They may acknowledge that it may not go away, but despite their awareness of the pain, they're still looking forward to living life to how they want to live it. It's like for them it's already an ordinary thing, those sufferings, those trials that they've undergone. That very form in which they appear as if they're just enjoying the ride, they're cruising in the red car. So it speaks of ordinariness, of trials, something like that. So it's open to different interpretations. I don't know with you how you're going to use the impressionistic approach to say what you mean. But if you want a clear-cut tip, focus on what makes it worth remembering. So in that scene, what's worth remembering is the facial expressions of Clay and Tony as they ride the red car. It's like they're avoiding each other's glances, in a sense like it's memorable for me using the impressionistic approach, in that they're anticipating that there will be more challenges ahead, and because of the feeling of being exposed, they don't want to make that feeling more evident, or they don't want to intensify that feeling of being exposed. That's why they somewhat avoided each other's glances. They did not look each other because they already learned more about each other, their flaws like that, and probably they just avoided looking at each other so that they can temporarily forget about that and focus on what lies ahead. So that's my impressionistic interpretation. So I'm happy to hear what's yours. Comment down below what you think. If you haven't seen yet that scene, then I recommend that you watch that scene by clicking on the link below, or if you have access to Netflix, then watch the fourth season. Oh yes, pardon if this has served as a spoiler, and it's the best example because it's the best example that I could think of for this lesson. So continue surviving in the dark. I'll see you in the next class.
Oh English me, oh English me, gusto kong matuto ng Ingles pero hindi alam kung paano. Sino ang magtuturo? Gusto kong matuto na talaga. Oh English me. Word of the night. Intrepid. Adjective. Ang first three na makapag-comment sa baba ng meaning at ng kanyang original sentence ay magkakaroon ng special mention sa susunod na episode. Kaya, ano pa hinihintay yung Nocters? Mag-comment na kayo sa baba bago mag-Friday upang masama sa editing ang inyong posts. Kung nagustuhan ninyo ang episode na ito, pakilike naman dyan sa baba. Kung may mga questions o suggestions kayo, mag-comment na lang din kayo sa baba. At pakishare naman ito sa mga kakilala ninyong senior high na nag-take ng EYA. Alam niyo naman na sa panahon ngayon ay mahirap na makakuha ng reliable resources. Saka kapag ginawa niyo yan, nakakatulong kayo. Then, Mag-join din kayo sa ating private Facebook group, The Nocturne Space, yung link nasa baba in case you missed it dun sa credits. At least dun sa Nocturne Space, kung naiiyak kang mag-comment publicly sa baba, magkakaroon ka ng space kung saan makapag-discuss ka mga bagay-bagay na nahihiya kang pag-usapan sa mga kaibigan mo, mga kapamilya mo, kasi karamihan ng mga nasa lipunan ngayon ay may partikular na iniisip na popular, at kadalasan yung popular, hindi yan swak sa makagaya natin na nasa dilim. That's why we're in the dark and we need guidance. We need a guide. Nandito ang Nocturnal Sage at andyan ang Nocturne Space para bigyan kayo ng ganong klaseng platforms para magpahayag ng walang judgment from those who will listen to you. Mag-subscribe din kayo at tap nyo ang notification bell para hindi kayo mahuli sa mga anumang updates na aming lalabas. New episodes every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Ang Nocturne Space ay nakatuon sa 4 na area. Sa una ay self-conquest. Dito, magbibigay kami ng tips sa kung paano mo maipaprocess ang negative emotions kagaya ng anxiety, depression, anger, etc. Minus any medical prescription kasi hindi naman kami licensed psychiatrist. Pangalawa ay communication, kaya nga merong English Me. Pero hindi lang limitado sa pagbasa at pagsulat ng English ang communication aspect kasi pwede ka rin namin bigyan ng tips sa kung paano mo i-develop yung self-confidence mo kapag nagpa-public speaking ka. Saka pangatlo ay leadership. Kung ikaw ay bagong halal na student council president o let's say newly promoted ka at gusto mo ng konting pointers sa paghawak ng tao, mas lalo na yung may hirap kausap dyan, ay makakapagbigay si Sir Jeremy ng mga advice about leadership and management. Basta magagaling sa inyo yung mga tanong, pero pwede rin kami magbigay ng mga unsolicited topics na magagamit nyo sa inyong pamamalakad. At saka panghuli ay expansion. Kung gusto mong lumawak, kung gusto mong ma-attain yung ganitong klaseng self-fulfillment na hindi mo makukuha sa matataas na sweldo o kita, pero makukuha mo sa pag-acquire ng panibagong siguro skill set para matamo yung uri ng trabaho o gawain na pinapangarap mo. Tutulungan ka namin sa kung paano mo ma-identify sa sarili mo kung anong skills o kasanayan o yung mga bagay na dapat mong matutunan pa bukod dun sa mga na-take up mo na sa school, at saka paano mo sila pagsasama-samahin upang maka-engage sa isang gawain. Independent, no? Independent na yon sa ano yung kikitain mo, yung monetary returns. Bali, hindi na tungkol sa monetary returns lang ang self-fulfillment, kundi sa pag-a-acquire ng karagdagang kaalaman at kasanayan upang mag-generate ng ganong klaseng yaman, yung monetary ba. So doon na papasok yung monetary kapag na-achieve mo na yung primary, which is yourself. Yung ability mo upang payamanin o pagyamanin ang kahit na ano. Salamat sa panonood. Ako muli, si Kuya Ed. Kita-kits sa susunod na episode ng English Me dito sa Nocturnal Sage, a guide for those left